Okay, so we'll call the Board of Appeals meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. We do have a quorum, which is great. So little roll call real quick. We have Stephen here and we have Barbara Dorff, as well as our 3 voting members tonight, which gives us a quorum. We will see if Corey joins us. But if not, we all feel comfortable. Hey, there's Corey.
I'm here.
Right.
Corey's here.
I'm here.
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hi.
So we just called the meeting to order, so thanks for being here. Even though you're an alternate, we are missing Noel tonight. So are you cool jumping in and being a voting member tonight?
Yes.
It's not needed, but if you feel comfortable, we'd love to have you. We have 1 agenda item tonight, so we'll have you in. Our newest member, Josh, is not here tonight, but he will be here, right, John, eventually. And we could take care of the housekeeping tips at the end, Corey, in terms of kind of what you would like your role to be, whether staying alternate or taking a full slot. So we'll talk about that at the end, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Matt, you will be voting with us. We will jump into some the business items things, and then we'll get into the agenda items and kind of a more formal side of things, if that's okay. For right now, we do need to get to the approval of the agenda. For tonight, there's 1 item on the regular business and then obviously informational at the end.
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Barb. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, Corey, gotcha, Stephen, sorry. So we'll start, have a
No worries.
first and a second by Barb and Corey for the approval of the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No? Okay, great. And then we have the minutes from last month's meeting. Any objections, changes, anything people need to make note of a record there? If not, a motion to approve will be great.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Stephen.
Second.
And Barb coming in second. There we go. So a motion to approve by Stephen and a second by Barb to approve the agenda. I'm sorry, the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so we have the housekeeping stuff out of the way. We will get into regular business. Before we start, just kind of a little overview. I see we have our applicant on the call. Thank you for being here. But to give you an idea of kind of what our goal here is, we're a quasi-judicial board that is set up by the mayor. So we are not elected officials, but we are here to act as a judicial body in terms of hearing a case, an appeal for the individuals that are applying their case to have a variance granted that does not fit within the current code of the city. Our job is to hear the applicant's evidence as it is in almost like a trial, in the sense that produce evidence or witnesses to basically say, hey, this is why I don't believe that it is fair for me to follow the code, following basically the steps of being able to prove, you know, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. All good. Basically, these 5 things we're going to continue to work on making them maybe 3, but ultimately, use of the property as it's intended. The physical characteristics of the property do not allow me to use the property as intended. The circumstances of the property create an exceptional situation, and therefore I'm not able to do this based on this situation, and we should therefore grant the variance. That's the goal of the application. John will be presenting from the city in terms of giving us an idea of what the actual situation is, get our bearings around the application. He will then go over alternate versions or ideas of what the city has proposed. And again, then we will hear from the applicant to hear their evidence as to, again, why they don't feel the variations or the code works for them. I will, because it is a quasi-judicial board, I will swear in John and I will swear in Rich as we get to you. Basically just to make sure that on the record, we are asking that all the evidence that you're producing is accurate and fair. And then I think that's it. Is that a fair overview? Okay. Thank you, Stephen. Thumbs up. I see it. All right. So Rich is saying good, which is great because he's up to bat right out of the gate. So we're gonna jump right into regular business E. Steven, did you have a question? I saw a hand jump up.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm messing around with Civic Clerk and I can't find the packet. So,
okay. You want me to give you a moment so you can catch up?
no. I get plenty of information on here. This was just, please continue.
Okay. We've got this script, so I'm making sure that I go through it. Oh. Procedure. Gosh, this is really thick. I love it.
Sort of okay with the first one.
Yep, no, I love it. I was just making sure I didn't see anything. All right, so I have a new script. I'm gonna go through this script again because we're working, Rich, to formalize our process a bit more. So bear with us here. We have item number 1, appeal 22-39. Richard Dolezal of Death Architects, applicant, request relief for minimum FAR standards to build a building with the overall floor area under 10% of the square footage of the parcel. The applicant requests deviate from the following requirements of Chapter 44, Green Bay Zoning Code, Section 44-720, Table 44-9, floor area ratio minimum standards in Alderman Stevens District 5. So we've covered that. Before we continue on this one, it is the goal of the Board of Appeals to provide and conduct a hearing that is both fair in form, appearance, and substance. To ensure that this hearing satisfies these goals, each member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, please confirm the following by stating, I confirm. 1, I do not have any interest or conflict of interest in this matter. And 2, I have not received any communication from any person or party of this matter. I'll start with you, Barb.
I confirm.
Thank you. Corey,
I confirm.
Steven,
I confirm.
and Tommy, I confirm as well. Okay. Great. Next step. So the board will hear from staff, as I said. Rich, we'll call upon you in a second. The applicant will then have their opportunity to present evidence and testimony. I kind of went over this already. It is the discretion, in its discretion, the board may also choose to hear input from the public. But that is on our discretion. So board members, as you can notice, I will not open the floor unless we choose to, because we've discussed with legal that we feel that the applicant is already part of the forum. We only need to open the floor if we choose to hear from people outside of the witness testimony of the applicant and people they have brought for their application. But other than that, we won't need to open and close the floor anymore unless we decide to hear from the public. Make sense?
Yes, yes.
That's the change we made. Okay, so staff, go ahead. It's your presentation.
And I sort of tell the truth on this matter upcoming here.
Thank you, John.
So, the property in question is at 2182 University Avenue. You'll see the North University. Off to the east is Dan's. To the south is Van Duren Street. Right here, you're seeing a pretty big street view of the parcel itself. Grass space right now for the majority of the property. You'll note off to the west a transmission tower and electrical lines. There are easements that run through the western part of the property. So the following is a site plan that was submitted by the applicants. I want to note there have been changes that have been made to have less variances requests and it's appreciated. So this has been a revised site plan to get down to we're just having this one request here for FAR standards. You'll note on the site the drive entrance comes in off of University Avenue and that the building drive-through itself for this Pizza Hut goes off on the eastern part of the property. To the south there, going back to what we had here before, you'll note the St. Vinny's off of around Van Duren. This site plan shows drive access to reach St. Vinny's through this property. It also has the property entrance off of Van Duren itself. Other observations about the property, it meets standards for everything here. We didn't have any questions about anything beyond the FAR. Parking is well beyond minimum requirements. Green space is fine on the property. Next up, we're going to go ahead and see the elevation provided by the applicant for the new Pizza Hut itself. Upper left would be your view on the front from University. Upper right would be your view going to the drive-through itself on the eastern part of the property. Lower left would be your rear view going back behind the property, and then what you would see from University going eastbound. That would be your elevation right there. I want to draw attention to the western part of the property. This is a detail of, from the site plan of the, transmission tower and the variety of easements that are occurring on the western part of the property. Overall, the largest easement itself is a, easement for an electric transmission, and that is approximately 118 feet. That's the, depth of the property by about 28 feet or so. So there are a number of easements that do occur, for gas and ingress egress on the western part of the property. So this comes to the question what we have right now, for, the variance in question. So this is a C2 property. The floor area ratio is 0.1. What does that entail? 10% of the parcel itself must have floor area. That can come through a single, let's just go ahead and do this a 10,000 foot property, 1,000 square feet if it's a 1-story building, 500 square feet if it's a 2-story building, to go ahead and reach the minimums for this. And why is that done as far as in these districts? You know, it's to go ahead and preserve form and function of the area, to try to go ahead and build up the space as far as business and commerce in an area, and to avoid just large open spaces that aren't being used, which then goes into play with our tax base, and trying to go ahead and find more maximization out of it. As you'll note from other minimum setbacks here, that at 0.1, you're gonna go ahead and reach a lot of the building setbacks and parking requirements. There wouldn't be many issues with that. To give a general picture of this property itself, it's 22,214 square feet in total. Applicant is requesting the floor area to be 1,286 square feet. In general, that goes ahead and makes the FAR 0.055. The minimum required square footage would be 2321 for this parcel. Going back to what we have here, because of our alternatives, you'll note what our minimum lot area is, what we have for as a city here for our standards as far as impervious surface and that sort. So this parcel is 23,000 square feet. Just about. Street frontage is 199 square feet. One of the subsections that I noted is the minimum frontage required for a C2 lot is 75 feet. And the approximate area of the easements ends up totaling about 3,304 as far as square feet. Where does that come into play? As alternatives to the site, see two different options. One, expand the building that's there. That is an option to go ahead and make it a larger building that can go ahead and conform with 0.1. Secondly, another option could be to split the parcels. There is enough space with 23,000 square feet to go ahead and make an additional parcel. Part of the problem that we would have there, though, or the applicant would have, is the area where the easements. That ends up being 3,304. 22,214 minus 3,304 ends up being less than 20,000 square feet. And the minimum requirement for a lot is 10,000 square feet. Now, you can still have areas where there are easements in your parcel and still meet that requirement, but it would play into a factor as far as what you can actually develop for your floor area in that area.
Question out of the gate, to make sure I understand all the math you just walked us through, to comply, what you're saying on this slide here is 10% of 23,000, right? So that's that $2,300 number you have there.
Correct.
The approximate area of the total platform that is taken up by easement, the total parcel, sorry, not platform, is 3,300. So that would mean that it would take you slightly under the, well, right around 20,000.
Just under 20,000.
20,000. So to comply, if you chose to include the easements as a subtraction, it would need to be 2,000 square feet to meet the minimum square footage if we were to take the easements out. Am I following the math correctly?
Oh, so what I'm saying is your options as far as being, you have A, make your building larger.
Yep.
B, or you could go ahead and potentially split the parcels up.
Yeah.
If you did this, your minimum required size is 10,000 square feet per parcel. But to note, there are easements in here which would be difficult to remove because they're electrical easements or towers. That ends up equaling about 3,300 square feet. With that in mind, the 23,200 square feet, the parcels right now would be less than 20,000 square feet. And you need to have,
Which is 10,000. Yes.
so.
But as a singular lot, what I'm saying, if you took all the easements out, right, that would make the overall thing 20,000.
About that, yes, about
Which would then
20,000.
mean the requested floor area to fit would be 2,000. Because
Correct.
10% of that number.
Yeah, around that, yes, yeah.
Right, okay, okay. And so we're still gapping even if we include these.
Oh, correct, we're still, yeah,
Okay,
far,
okay.
far under the new requirements, yes.
I got my bearings. Barb, you have a question to get your bearings?
I do, to get my bearings. So the requirement of having the building be larger, was I understanding that it's to protect the ability of the city to get appropriate property taxes? Is that why we want bigger buildings on, or to at least 10%, then we would get more taxes for the city? Is that what it comes down to?
Right, that is an idea right here. So we have both minimum and maximum FAR standards throughout the city. We don't
Okay.
because going back to this slide, based off of maximum height in feet and impervious surface, we have issues here to go ahead and go much further beyond, say, 2.5 for an FAR, and we just don't have those buildings that are existing. So we have minimum floor area ratios that exist here in the city. Think of it this way, we have two different big things that go ahead and pop out with this. One would be your overall form of the corridor and the district that it's in, with having, what does it mean to have buildings built up in a parcel to where they get smaller and smaller? What does it mean to the overall districts by having less buildings and more open or parking space? What does that mean to the functionality of of University Avenue itself? Secondly, we'll go down to tax space. If you have more of these areas which are having lower FAR, it's less taxable area to go ahead for the value of the property for the base overall.
That's what I was asking, right? So that's kind of one of the purposes behind it,
Right.
is
Yes.
that. And, okay. Well, thank you.
Stephen, go ahead. You have a question before we get to
Yeah, so the building in question we're talking about, this is another one of those walk up and drive up only food establishments like Scooter's Coffee, or just a minimum size building in order to there's no internal seating, I take it,
Correct.
dine in, as it were.
Yes, you can go inside
Okay.
of pick up your order, but there's no
Okay.
needing to eat your order.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's I mean,
Let's hear from let's just
yeah,
hear,
yeah.
and then we'll hear from the applicant first. Corey, any questions for the staff in terms of understanding what we're looking at before we hear from the applicant?
No, I'm good from the standpoint of what we're looking at.
Okay, great. All right, Rich, it's your time. So go ahead and unmute, and then I'm gonna basically swear you in. So do you swear that the testimony the evidence you're about to present is the truth, factual, yeah, I guess that's it. I gotta work on that statement.
Yes, I agree.
I don't want it to sound like a crime novel, but at the same time, it's the same idea. Okay, thanks, Rich. I appreciate it. Go ahead and take us through your application for us. Thank you.
Yes, so obviously the local Pizza Hut franchise is working through with Pizza Hut corporate or Pizza Hut National to redevelop restaurants throughout Wisconsin, and to make them more viable, to keep them modernized, and especially how financially keep them financially viable in today's competitive marketplace. They go and they ask for Pizza Hut National to give them comp checks on what type of restaurants they should be putting per geographical areas with the population and everything. And what they're finding is in densely populated areas, the carry out, drive and pickup are the ones that weren't there. The sit down restaurants don't work there anymore. So that's where Pizza Hut National came up with the smaller design that's basically just geared around obviously making pizza and getting it out, either delivery, drive-through, or pickup. And we're working through this site, and obviously there were some concerns that they had about trying to make the building bigger. First, there's not a prototype. They don't have a prototype at the Pizza Hut National for a carry-out drive-through to make it bigger. Financially, to keep financially viable, they can't just make it larger. Otherwise, it just doesn't work with their number comps with running a restaurant. We did, explore splitting up the building or splitting up the lot and, making a smaller lot. But there are some factors that they didn't really like. One of them was, doing just an in and out onto University Ave. There is a stoplight not very far to the left or to the right side of this property. And the Pizza Hut owner went up there and, kind of observed traffic during rush hour and stuff like that. And it does get back quite a ways all the way to the site. So having, the entry and the exit farther on the right side was not something they were looking for. That's why they were in communications with the grocery store off to the left side here and St. Vinny's to try to come up with an alternative that they liked. At one point they were in negotiations to do also a shared access to the grocery store, but it was ultimately decided to just pursue that with St. Vinny's right there. Because again, they really don't want to be pushing a lot of traffic out onto University Ave and making it harder for people to get in and out to address that area. And then trying to do some type of mixed use, multi-tenant building. That's not really in their wheelhouse at all. They run restaurants and they didn't want to get into that type of thing. And even with that, the lot itself is not overly deep when you look at our building and having a drive-through go around it. And that's kind of why we've kind of decided on this one. And we ended up having to rework the cooler. That's that double hatch that you see in the back area there. Rework the cooler because one of the variances or one of the issues that came up with during our site plan review was I believe it was a newer ordinance, the 15-foot minimum setback to the pavement in the front. Because when we were looking at it, it was to the building and then it changed to the pavement. So we pushed everything back because we really, as John said, we didn't want to try to, go for two variances when we could easily make that 15-foot one work with our plan. And the whole idea is also to, if St. Vinny's needs additional parking, they're going to obviously park on this side as well. So that's pretty much what we're asking for and then, the ending is if they can't get the variance, they've been in this neighborhood just down on University Ave. If they're going to have to abandon this property this week because they have actually closing scheduled for later this week.
So this would replace the one on the corner of Henry and University?
Correct.
I think that building might be older than I am.
Used to be a regular there when I lived over in this side of town.
It used to be, I remember it used to be a Kentucky Fried Chicken in the 70s and 80s.
Okay, all right, well, we've got a good layout, I feel like. We've got the kind of overall idea of the use of the property. So how are we feeling about, right, getting to either a approval of the variance? Are we feeling like we've been presented enough evidence to kind of cover? We don't have our great Noel here to create the perfect situation if we are so inclined to approve. Remember, if we deny, we don't necessarily need to cover a lot of this why. However, I think it would be beneficial to the applicant to explain what we're not required to. But if we're approving, I do think we need to kind of cover in general, whether we're using the 5 things here or generally talking about the 3 things that we have on the application, which is, you know, can they use the property as is intended? Is there a hardship or a uniqueness to the property that's preventing them? Did you be able to do that? And is there hardship with this that is not self-imposed?
So I've been working on it a little bit.
I do
I-
have a quick question. I mean, I just want to understand one thing.
Yep.
So with St. Vinny's having the easement there, there was a mention of using the overflow parking lot. Is it common for them to have that type of a situation? Like as in, is their parking lot not adequate to support their actual building as it is? So is by expanding and allowing such a variance actually helping out the situation that St. Vinny's might be in from a parking circumstance?
Per se, I can't speak completely to that. All I know is when they approached St. Vinny's, they were really intrigued with especially for their driver, you know, because they have their customers and their drivers with that type of stuff. They were really looking very favorable to getting access from University Ave to their property as well.
Okay.
So can you go back for me, the layout? Is that okay, John? Sometimes I'm slow on the uptick on these things. So we have University at the top here. People would enter the property at the top here, and then they would come engage with Pizza Hut, and then they would go back out on University, and that bottom driveway that's on the bottom side of the thing right there, yep. Is that just another area for people to exit, and that takes them into the St. Vincent's parking lot?
Right,
And
that
it
would
goes into the parking lot of the grocery store on the left. Is that correct?
There's no connection between the grocery store and the Pizza Hut, and I don't believe there's connection to St. Vinny's either.
There is not.
Right,
So
well,
Oh,
You said that bottom.
right now there is none as far as anything.
No, so they're bigger, they're gonna build one.
Right.
That connects,
Yeah.
in this grass lot on this map here,
Right.
it would go in here, and then they would enter from here, and then they would be able to exit down here and access all of this.
I don't believe right now there's any sort of barrier that would get you to the grocery store. I don't know if there's egress there right now for access, so legally speaking.
Got it.
But there's pavement there to go drive
Okay.
over, practically speaking.
And right now, what we're saying with the St. Vincent thing and why they're excited is currently people enter their property from Van Duren. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so we have Pizza Hut going in, and then but people can come in as well, pass through and get to St. Vincent. But also people can leave through the Pizza Hut as well from St. Vincent.
If there's an egress, yes, yeah.
Okay. I know. So it is a pass through for both businesses.
If there's-
Correct.
Correct, it would be, yes.
Okay. Sorry, again, trying to get all bearings.
that was, yeah, I mean, that was what you were describing is how I was kind of understanding what I was seeing. So just to kind of get the clarification work. So it's essentially creating better access for the Vinny's place, as well as, I mean, but it's the only thing that I'm there is like because of it's green space now, and now you're putting in more parking lot, even though it meets the qualifications for the acceptable green space, but
Yeah,
not gonna draw straws on that.
that lot's been empty for a long time.
Yeah, and then between St. Vincent's and the grocery store, there are concrete wheel stops from the beginning of their property to is it Van Buren? So there is no access across from St. Vincent's to the grocery store unless you were to go over the curb stops.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I've been trying to see where that truck is. Like, what's that lot for on that's next to that truck right there?
That's the side of the grocery store.
It's the
There's
side
a-
of the grocery store. They do their loading and unloading there. My grandmother used to live on Van Buren, almost across the road.
The only way
So,
to access that lot that's on the right of that truck is off of Van Buren as well as the one on the right. 'Cause
Yep.
The truck can't go into that property because it's blocked, is what I'm saying.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay. So.
What's the store? Anybody know?
It used to be Lindy's. It was a university super value.
Okay,
I
know
think
I know
it's
what
a
it is
super value
anymore.
now. It used to be Country Market or something.
Yeah.
then I know what we're talking about. Thank you.
Google has it listed as University.
Okay,
Do we know what that side of St. Vincent, that's the one that now has access to university? Do we know what that parking lot on the left is currently used for? Is that customer parking or is that, I don't know what,
That's customer parking. That's where you access the business.
on the left side, on the right
On the
side?
left side, closer to the grocery store. Technically on the west side of the building.
Thank you, sorry. My north, south, east, west is always goofy.
No worries. No worries at all.
Okay, thanks.
Whoops.
No, we're good. I'm just trying to get them here for.
Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant to kind of help us gain more evidence towards the case here?
I'm satisfied.
Anybody else? If we are satisfied, then we need to kind of start working towards crafting a motion.
I'm kind of working on one. Do you want me to start?
Well, let's get a sense of where we're at.
Okay.
You know, because we might be like crafting something to deny and then we're wasting our time. But are we in agreement that whether we have the variance that there is like we are moving towards potential approval? It sounds like Barbie.
I am moving
Yes.
towards potential
I'm-
approval.
I'm
Yes.
As-
in
as
that
am I.
boat as well.
Okay, all right, good. So that's what I want to make sure that we're all working together then on this portion that we're trying to develop good muscles on. Go ahead, Barb, do your best throw here.
Noel in imitation, right? I'm gonna need help when I get to number 5. I think the first 4 I did pretty good, but I don't know about number 5. So I move to approve this variance as it is not inconsistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of regulations in the district in which it is requested. In that there are exceptional circumstances. The lot has a number of easements that would make it difficult to split, and it's a fairly narrow lot. I believe that the variance is necessary for preservation of property rights, so that the same rights which are possessed by other properties in the same district and vicinity could also be possessed by the Pizza Hut. I believe there is an absent, or there is not a detriment to adjacent property. In fact, it helps St. Vincent with, I didn't know what's the parking issues with
Access.
parking access.
Parking issues, yep,
Parking.
absolutely.
Okay. And then the only one I couldn't come up with definitively was the hardship. was it self-imposed or based I don't believe it's based solely on economic grounds, because it's
No.
based on the national,
Footprint. Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever they call it,
the available building schematics and
right,
fits the
right.
business.
So I
Well,
can
and-
say it's not based on the economic grounds.
it's also, you know, in the hardship category, I think we also have to recognize that uh, food service building where there's no internal seating and there's walk up and drive up access is becoming a more viable business model than maybe when our ordinances were created. We've approved a number of similar lots like this for companies like Scooters Coffee. Those come to mind, and I think it was also done for Caribou Coffee, although don't quote me on that.
It was.
They had variances approved for. I was here for Scooters, at least the one on West Mason. That they had the variance approved because of the small size of their building. You know, because that's all the business needs. You know, we talked a lot at that point about how when we were talking about how a restaurant was, you know, back in the day versus what we're talking about a restaurant is today. We had to give a variance for that and for the Arby's next door because the Arby's went into double drive-through lanes, right? That's all the new ones have, those 2 lanes. And a
Mhm.
lot of times those buildings also don't fall into this into the acceptable use either, for the same reason we're fighting for this company. But I think you're absolutely right. There's no detriment, and I don't think hardship. I think the hardship here is that our code isn't, at least in this case, updated to take into account a newer business model.
But I don't know if that's what I mean, I agree with that. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that hopefully John will take back to city council or whoever.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure that when I always have these things in front of me of what we're supposed to be looking at.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's the alleged difficulty in complying with the municipal code is not self-imposed, nor is it based solely on economic grounds. So that is what we're supposed to judge on. I think, John, am I right or not?
Right, just keep in mind with your,
I-
it's not a matter of if the code necessarily works or not, it's the code itself that, and just applying
Right.
hardships to this particular parcel in question.
Right, and remember, the hardship is, I always look at, as I continue to struggle with like, okay, what is hardship? Is that it feels to me that that's kind of the all-encompassing kind of bucket of like, okay, because of all the checks these boxes, right? So it is hard, right, to comply with the code based on these factors, right? And so to me, the idea here is, okay, cool, it's a lot that's got some constraining pieces to it. The cars are growing, buildings are shrinking. If you're having a drive-through pickup area, drivers, delivery drivers, carry out, take out, business model itself is dictating come and go traffic, the footprint of it. You have employees that are still servicing all of that different stuff. So to me, you need parking to service the business. You need cars to come and go with ease, whether they're picking up or driving somewhere. You have a drive-through as well, which takes up a certain amount of property as well. So for me to comply with the code under this specific thing, right, we're not having a impervious service problem, right? No, right, so they're complying with every other portion of it. It's just the building itself cannot, and if they were gonna design that in here, can they still use the property as it's intended at a 2,000 square foot, right? Because that would be 2,300 square foot, which would almost add a 40% increase in the building size. And if they do that, how much parking do they lose? How does that impact their business model? All of those different things, right? And to me,
Yeah.
that all encompassing for me says that that is a hardship to comply, to use it with the intended goals and all of that stuff. Now, we can all disagree or agree
Well,
with where I'm at. So I
Yeah,
think,
I mean, I think that's good logic. So just a clarifying question, do we have to comply with all 5 of these each time? Or is it good to have 3 out of 5, or?
where we're currently at, it is all 5, because that's how
Right.
our variance, our code is written. There
Okay.
is, that we discussed last week, we should get to a little bit about other municipalities have 3, which are in more alignment with our application. We're just not there
Yep.
yet. Right now, because
Yep,
of COVID,
fair enough.
we need to speak to those 5.
Yep, no problem. I
Um,
think with your logic, we can speak to number 5. I think what Barb outlined works in all of these.
I agree.
And then with your logic on number 5, to me, this is, in my mind, it is preserving the intent of the lot, what the city would want it used for, a retail establishment or a fast food establishment. The circumstances, considering the size of the lot and the easements that make it difficult to split the property in any reasonable way to put a substantial burden on, we would just end up issuing a lot more variances for the person who took the smaller lot. Preservation of property rights, all of this, I think we've covered pretty thoroughly. And even the absence of detriment is actually in this case, I think it's an improvement for that neighborhood
Yep.
Right.
and for the businesses around it.
I'll second the motion if that's needed.
There you go. So I think for us, what we need to do is get to some sort of on record, hey, here are our findings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so therefore, based on our findings, I have a motion to approve, right? So now Barb, say I have a motion to approve. Say it again, just so we have it on the record appropriately.
All
And
right.
do you have something down for number 5 you're comfortable with, Barb?
I don't, because it
Okay.
went all over the place.
Hold
So I just need a sentence for number 5. Somebody give me a
It
sentence.
doesn't need to be,
Tommy, can you do that?
hold on, it doesn't need to be in the motion, all 5. We just need a body, right? So think about, we're about to rule. Hey, have we found enough evidence or understanding of these 5 things that we are now in a position to move to vote for approval? So we've covered that discussion, right? Those that are potentially voting in favor feel that they've covered those and they've established those on the record. So now all we need to do is motion to approve.
Oh, that's it. So I don't have to repeat all those things again.
Oh,
Great. I move to approve the variance
I'll second.
based on what we discussed.
there we go. Perfect. Good. So I have a motion on the floor to approve based on our findings that we put on the record. Those that have heard those findings, agreed to those findings, they can vote in favor based on this. So all those in favor of voting to approve based on the findings, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Okay, so that's 4-0 in a vote to approve the variance as requested. So Rich, please circle back to those that you're working with. Let them know they have approval to move forward with the current designs and they can close on the property this week. Please, and it sounds like you are, continue to work with John and the city staff. A lot of times from these variances, people feel like that's a green light, just go do whatever they want. Please don't do that. Continue to work with them on the building process. All stuff is done in partnership with the city.
That sounds great. John, you'll be getting obviously new site plan fully developed from us. And there's also the building plans that are in there for building approval. We'll have to do an update for those as well to meet what the new design of the building was for the layout of the cooler.
Just a quick question that has nothing to do with the variance, but I saw it. There's a proposed sign going on what would be the west side of the driveway. Is that correct? A Pizza Hut sign off of University?
Up like a pylon sign, yes.
Is it pretty dense? Like I didn't see it in the drawing. Is it like a pretty big sign? Like
It's not a part of the site plan right now. Those are to get different sign plans.
they move it to the east side of the lot? It's just because again, you're entering and you're seeing as you're exiting. Right? It would create a better view of people exiting a very busy street. If it went to the right. Right? Because then you have a bigger angle
Yeah.
of seeing.
It's
Anyway,
suggestion, Rich, if you don't need to go ahead
Suggestion,
with it
Rich.
right now, it's fine. It's okay.
nothing to do with the Board of
Yeah.
Appeals, just a citizen who is, but in all honesty, we've had a lot of public input from other properties that have come for appeals on University, and it all comes down to people turning in and out of those things and concerned about traffic because it gets more and more trafficy. That's all. So creating great sidelines for people to be safe as they exit would be a great thing to think about.
Yeah, that is, just so you know, that is just a pylon sign, so it's going to be clear to like at least 15 feet.
Perfect.
So, and that was the main reason why we went for that egress, is because we don't want to be putting people out on University if we don't have to.
All right, great.
Great.
Just ignore that for the chair of the Board of Appeals. Thanks, buddy. All right.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for us, or are you in a good spot?
I am good, thank you.
Okay, have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks, you too. Enjoy the holidays. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
All right, good job, everybody. We're getting better at this. We don't need to move to close the floor because we're not doing that anymore unless we need to, so we're in a good spot. Informational, let's ask John and the staff, do you have anything for us, updates, where we're at with anything?
Right, so expect next month, that we'll once again see, our city attorneys to go ahead and give some information. We'll do that with just being the holidays and a Packer game and having the newer board member on at that point. We're looking to go ahead and shore up the changes here to the application form to actually go ahead and make that a permanent feature. So we have right now.
Any questions for John before we get to Corey? Any questions? Okay, Corey, question, we were discussing this last time, about roles, right? And how an alternate plays into that. And technically, the way it works is when someone's spot vacates as a member of the board, then someone else comes in and places them in the slot of a member of the board, and the alternate stays the alternate. However, we did discuss the idea of making, since the alternate is there and it's up to speed, an option where the alternate can say, hey, I'd like to slot into being a permanent member of the board. And it was encouraged at that time, or if that was something you wanted to do, to reach out to the mayor's office, right? Because they're the ones that do the appointments. And that's how the formal process would be. And then the person they were bringing would then be offered the alternate slot. Did you consider that, or are you still staying as an alternate? Where are you at?
I did consider it, but I'm gonna stay as the alternate, just based on things that are going on with my kids' school and sports and all those other little things. My schedule is still kind of jumbled up for the next year.
Okay, thank you. And again, not trying to force you into something that doesn't, because you didn't sign up to be a full member, you're just an alternate. So we appreciate your willingness to show up and step in when needed and vote and stuff. So great. So then, what was your name again?
Joshua Cook,
He'll be here for next meeting,
he will,
and then he'll be a full member of the board. So
he'll take over the term for Tom.
Tom Hoy.
Yep.
Yep, okay. And then we'll have a 4 or 5 person board with an alternate at that
Have a
point.
5-person.
Great. Okay, that's good.
Perfect.
Awesome. We start.
Oh, excuse me.
So this is good. For almost 2 years, we've had a full board. It's great. Last quick thing, and then we'll go since there's a Packer game. Where do we stand on potentially with the variance, right? So the current thing is the 5. We discussed potentially getting it down to 3, like some other civics areas have. Is that something that will have to take time and that has to go through like city council and stuff?
Right, it would require a code change with that in its own right, an ordinance change.
And is that something that it will take, like, we should refer that or let you do your work
We'll
on it?
refer back with legal as far as saying what they think to. I hear you're saying as far as the 3 and 5 year rule for other places.
Yep.
And we want to go ahead, since we are actually now forming legitimate reasonings, not just getting a yes and saying we're done.
Yes.
To go ahead and make this as straightforward as possible and keeping the intent of what we're trying to go in here, the variance. We'll discuss it some more.
Yep.
I don't have an answer for that right now.
Okay. Let us know what you come up with. Yes, Barb?
I just want to say from my experience on council, knowing how backed up legal is, ordinances were taking 2 to 3 years to get on the list. And they were redoing all of the ordinances. So they were doing sections at a time. I'm not sure what section they're on right now. I'm not sure if they've done this section already. We just had a very big shortage of legal staff because of all of the things that happen with elections and the various lawsuits and such that were coming up. So it does take a while. Just, just so you know, and then it has to have 2 readings and it goes to any 2 readings. So it takes a bit. It takes a while.
We'll just, can we make a note to just make a touch base with legal about that? Because I'd like to stay on that and just see where we're at,
And anything we can do to help.
What's
Just-
that?
And anything we can do to help, just say the word. Happy to devote time outside of this meeting if it would be helpful.
Okay. And then again, just repeating, kind of going back, great job, Barb, with going through all that stuff. Again, the idea is we have a case, we hear the evidence, we discuss, here are the findings we have. And based on those findings, right, I motion to approve, right? Or I'm not able to get to enough findings to say
Yep.
this, I'm gonna motion to deny, right? And so the motion is real simple, approve or deny. It's the
I like that.
discussion
I
and the
really like that.
we're doing like a detective or a judicial body. We agree and we've heard the evidence and therefore here. Okay, so it doesn't need to be included in the motion.
Great.
Okay,
Awesome.
Perfect.
all right. In that case, I'll take another motion if there's nothing else.
Well, how about Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Happy Holidays?
Yes.
And hope the Packers maybe
holidays.
win.
Don't hang up now because we're
That
still.
would be nice.
Will,
I'll move to approve. I'll move to adjourn. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Barb.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion to adjourn by Barb and a second by Stephen. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Happy holidays, everybody. Appreciate it.
Happy
Holidays.
holidays.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Try and make this better.
Go
Christina, yes.
Go Pack.